Oh my COD. It's COD.
It's COD.
Violence in video games. And movies.
It's all with Marchese and Buller. It's all with Marchese and Buller.
Welcome to Marchese and Buller. And yes, Gary's got a monocle. And this game right here is insane. And let me tell you something. Call of Duty is very realistic, the most recent one. Grand Theft Auto, don't get me wrong, Grand Theft Auto had its moments, and it's also very realistic too. But I'm playing this Call of Duty game, the latest one, and it's great. I'll say it's definitely not for kids though. Okay? Do not get this for your kids unless they're very mature. That's your discretion. I'm not going to tell you how to raise your children, but there are moments when you have to make horrid decisions in this game, or you see things that are happening in real life, but it thrusts in your face all these things, these day-to-day things that we don't live through, that they live through in other places. It brings to your attention what's going on in these other lands and the atrocities that they have to go through. It's almost as if you're playing through like a graphic news broadcast, and all these things are just happening. Grand Theft Auto has these moments as well, don't get me wrong, but it's just ultra realistic. It's very real and in your face. I mean, do video games and movies make people go out and do things? That's another thing. Perhaps, maybe. If they were inclined to do those things from the get-go, then anything would set them off. So we're not going to even talk... I mean, we're not going to talk about that, because if you're going to go out and kill somebody, a video game is not going to just push you over the edge, as something else will. So we'll just put it out there. Maturity, you definitely need for these games. Mm-hmm. But like I was telling you, Gary, that scene in London, man, where the bomb goes off, I was just like, holy crap. And then you're running around, and all these people are on the road, they're screaming, they're bloody, cops are shooting at targets, and it's just ultra realistic. I like it as entertainment, obviously. I like a movie, because movies can be that same way, and that's why they have R ratings and MA 13 ratings. It's definitely not for kids, but are we going to this level? Are we going to this super hyper realism with video games and movies?
Yeah, I think just briefly touching back on what you said before, I think if you're going to go and replicate something in a computer game like that, you're not wired up correctly anyway. I think there's instances of violence and ultra-violence in fiction and in TV shows going right back. Some of the older books can be quite graphic. If you're a kid in the 80s, you probably remember the Faces of Death VHS.
Oh yeah,
sort of made the rounds, which is absolutely horrible. That's one of the things I struggle to watch. Even going back to the 90s, the early 90s and late 80s, you had games like Splatterhouse in the arcades. I kind of remember that, House of the Dead. Even going back further than that, you look at games like Sweet Home that came out on the NES. And there are even sort of horrible games out on the PC and on the Atari 2600, replicating gore and stuff. I just think Doom, yeah, I mean...
And they're laughable now, compared to what we have.
Yeah, I mean, you get the ultra-realism in games and stuff, and I think it adds to it, as long as it's part of an experience, as long as it's justifiable artistically, and you're not just going out there and just exploiting something, Yeah. Because there's a bomb, back in... goodness, how many years ago was it now? The bus exploded and there was a bus bomb. And at the same time, there was an explosion in the subway. That wasn't relatively that long ago. As long as it's not just exploiting it, then it's what it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to play these games. You don't have to buy them. You should know what to expect. As you said quite rightly, some games are only appropriate for certain ages. I wouldn't let my 9-year-old daughter play anything like that for sure. I mean, I know people who do have kids that are under the age of, who do let them play stuff like this, and it's something you really need to think about before you expose your kids to things like that, because I'm not saying that's going to turn your kid into a mass murdering maniac, but at the very least it might traumatise them,
Yeah. I could say, though, as an adult, this game really gives me respect for the Marines and the armed forces and all across the world. not just not just the States. Obviously, I'm in the States, so I'm going to say that with the Army here, it gives me a great respect for them. But all armed forces that are allies, it gives you great respect for these guys, because they go through hellish freaking things, man. And this is the most realistic Call of Duty I've ever played. Yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think there's too much violence in video games? Do you think there's too little violence in video games? What about movies? Movies can be violent too. Books. Leave my books alone, because you know what? There has to be some place where you can go crazy and have it realistic, because you want to have a realistic thing. If you're an adult and you're mature and you know the difference between you're going to do this and you're going to do that, you should be okay. But don't let influential minds listen to these things, because they may be influenced. So we want to know what you think. Leave the comments below. Gary wants to know right there in his ear. Ooh. Ding, 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 ding. And we will see
you next time. Whoa. That was like deeper than deep. I was Pete Steele deep. Deep. It's no secret. Oh, jeez. Nostrils.
Really gassy, man. Really gassy. Out in the mouth. No.
Oh! Okay.
It's all with Marchese and Paula. It's all with Marchese and Paula.
Squeeze my head.
Oh God. Yeah, so listen, I got this before we go. Here, this game let me get the light out of the way. This game right here, but
I mean, yeah.
yeah, was that Sensor Dog? I hear him go.
Oh no, that was Lisa coughing.
Yeah, hello Gary. And a moment of silence for Chris's cat. Yeah, Gary.
I kind of think that watching someone die like that, your death is one of your most intimate and private moments. To have it videoed like that is horrible, and yet morbidly fascinating. But anyway, but yeah.
Or even like you were saying, even with it, like you said, the books have ultra realism also. Sometimes even more so than the movies. Because look at it.
Yeah.
None of the iterations that have come onto the movie screen have even dealt with the orgy that they did with the girl. All the kids, so much more realistic in the book.
Yeah, so it's quite inappropriate, I suppose. But
it's got like a lot of stuff that's going on in the news too. With the people that are fighting and everything, and factions and locations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Remembrance Day today in the UK, so we have Remembrance Sunday. It's usually around the 11th of November, whatever the Sunday's closest. So we all have a minute's silence. Oh no, 2 minutes silence. So we're out in the supermarket and we're shopping, and they sort of sound the tannoy, and we all stood silent for 2 minutes. And it's something we do every year, and it's when we lay wreaths at cenotaphs and at places, of commemoration. Again, just to as a mark of respect to the people who fought to, so we can live the way of life we live now,
Yeah.
That includes the English, the Americans, all the allies, all the people in the war,
Yeah.
everyone was affected by it. So I think it's a good thing.
He may be influenced.
Yes, absolutely. Sensor Dog's fast asleep, by the way.
He is?
He is.
Sensor Dog, Sensor Dog. Does whatever a Sensor Dog does.
Sensor Dog sleeps. That's what Sensor Dog does.
Hey, well, he always has energy.
Oh, yeah, he's usually all over the place. How's Zumi?
Ugh. No, he's okay. He keeps pissing on the floor everywhere, man.
Bring him up and he should be sat by you for the podcast.
Ugh. I'll put him inside the helmet here. He'll fit, probably.